Today's community meeting focuses on the ELN file format. And I'll just say welcome to, if there's anyone here for whom this is their first time, thanks so much for joining. I'm Sydney, I'm the community manager at DeltaBlot, which is the company that edits the open source ELN, eLabFTW. And I'm joined here by the developer team, Ms. Elsa and Nico is also the founder and the lead developer. So today we're going to have two sort of very not formal presentations. The first will be about the ELN consortium, which is the group of ELN vendors and other interested parties who meet every 2 months to discuss the ELN file format and to talk about what kind of parameters and requirements it has and what the goals are of that. And Nico is going to tell us more about that. And then after that, we will sort of do the official unveiling of our new template sharing website, which we've been working on for, I think, almost a year. And we're now finally ready to open it to general testing by the public. So we're hoping that people who are watching now and people who are watching this video in the future feel interested to check it out after seeing what it can do. And the goal is to have the official website launched for real use in September. So I guess lining up with the beginning of the academic year. So after we have those two presentations, then we'll just have general conversations. So if you have questions about ELN file format, this is a great time to talk about those things. And then if you have questions that are completely not related, that is fine too. I think this will be our last community meeting for the summer. So I think at the point where we've talked about everything that we can say about ELN file format, then we can just open to general discussion. And this meeting will take about an hour. So thanks so much for everyone to join. And let's hear from Nico first about the ELN consortium.
Hello everyone. Thanks Ida for the introduction. So in this meeting, we are going to talk about the ELN file format. And this file format was created by the ELN consortium. And the ELN consortium was created by Dr. Stefan Brinkman, who I think is in the room, yes. You know what? I will give you an option to speak, Stefan, if you have something to add. And it was during my stay in his research group in the research center of Jülich. And we discussed about various aspects of how a file format for interoperability between ELNs would exist. And we considered several options. And at some point, someone mentioned that what we had in mind was very close to RO crate, so research object crate. A research object crate is actually not a crate because they don't define a way to make an archive of it. So it could be tar archive, could be zip archive. We chose zip archive for the ELN file format, but we consider also others. But zip is really the most ubiquitous file format that you can find, super easy to implement, and it's working everywhere. And the arrow crate, what they do is that you have a folder, okay, that's your data set, that's your data. And then you have a file called rocrate metadata.json. So this file is a JSON file. But it's not exactly JSON, it's JSON LD. So linked JSON, which is kind of a superset of JSON, but it's still JSON, it's still valid JSON. So all the JSON tool work with JSON LD. And in JSON LD, you have a graph, and this graph contains nodes that are interlinking between each other. And the nodes, you describe the content of your dataset with these nodes. So for instance, let's say you have a file which is a picture that was taken on a microscope. In the description, you can say when it was created, when it was modified, by whom, and so the whom will be another node, which will be an author node, with maybe itself it is linked to an affiliation, which will be the institute, the research center, or maybe with the ROR ID. And so we can add a lot of metadata into this JSON LD file, into this metadata file that will describe all the files in the crate or in the folder. The specification of the hero crate doesn't really require you to describe all the files. So you can also say whatever is in this folder are these files that are related to this and that, and you don't need to have 12,000 nodes in the JSON LD if you have 12,000 files. And so with the ELN file format, we wanted to be compatible with HeroCrate. We didn't want to invent yet another standard, and so we made a specification that covers how we create the zip file, which is a .eln file. But inside that file, there is a folder, and that folder is an hero crate, meaning that at the root of that folder, there is hero crate metadata.json, and then there is the data that is actually described by this metadata file. You can look into the ELN consortium website, which is a very simple and straightforward website, simply to exist on the web, because I remember Sydney telling us that, guys, you don't have a website, you don't exist. So we made a website because just having a GitHub page was not really enough. And the ELN consortium nowadays has been joined by many interested parties. So mostly what we want to have as member would be ELN vendors, so people that are creating ELN software. So here we have RB, we have Pasta, we have KD format, but also Nomad is a data repository. So it's also interesting for a data repository to be part of this discussion. And in fact, yesterday we had a meeting with the ELN consortium members, and there was someone working on Nomad. And so people can join freely. They just have to express interest, and basically in order to join, you have to provide an example ELN file of what your software is producing, and then we discuss on the GitHub repository. We discuss about the different attributes that can be added to the hero crate. And so, for instance, we have also a mapping of the different concepts that exist on the ELN, and that we map to a standardized JSON property. So that, for instance, if we look at in eLab, it will be created at. Maybe in some other ELN, it will be created when, or created date, or I don't know. But here, it will always be date created. And this uses the schema.org ontology, I want to say, plus others, because the ELN file format, the hero crate file format, allows you to define the vocabularies that you will be using inside the hero crate. So there are some basic vocabularies, including schema.org, and then on top of that, you can also define more. You can define profiles like that. There's many things to do. Stefan also created an application to check .eln, and so we are still in the never-ending process of validating that all ELNs work perfectly everywhere. Of course, it will always be a work in progress, but at least we are at a stage where it works mostly, and it works for all the important information about some dataset. We also declared the .eln as an official data type recognized by IANA. And we have so the meetings are really more for the ELN vendors or for anyone that is interested into using the .eln file format or the Aerocrate as a tool for the verification of the research data. So it could also be interesting to research data manager to look into this ELN file format to understand how we can improve it to include more and more attributes. Recently, in the software, I've been adding some possibility to define research object. No, it start the same, but it's different. Research organization registry links. So you can link with the hardware, you can link your instance or a team, and also the sysadmin can manage the association at the team level or also at the user level. So you have 3 levels of association that you can have. And I'm mentioning this because when you export as a .eln, you will get also this raw association that will be present in the metadata that is in there. So then, if you imagine a repository, a data repository that ingest .eln file, they will be able to extract also this information because it will be present in a standard way. Yes, I guess. Sorry, I was not sharing the correct tab. Putain, c'est chiant là. So, yeah, what I was showing is so basically, yeah, this so the research object here. So you can add the different research object that are either linked to the instance level or to the team level also, and the admins also can do that, or the user level. Okay, I guess that's it. Sina, do you think there is like some other topic you wish to address?
Well, I think the main point, in addition to people who are editing ELNs and people who are editing repositories and stuff, for just users and also RDMs, what are the main reasons for using an ELN file? Because there's multiple different types of file formats that you can export from in eLabFTW, but I think it would be great to highlight in this meeting like why you would choose to use an ELN file.
I guess context, meaning that when you export a PDF file, you just export the file, the content, the basic content. So you will have the title, you will have the tags, you will have the author, okay? You will have some information. So you have information, but it's very difficult, if not impossible, to read that data from a PDF reliably, meaning that the data is stuck in a binary file format and the team could be there or could be there or could be, you don't know. Whereas in the .eln file, so you have the data, like the files and everything, but also the metadata is described in a standardized way. And this is what makes it interoperable, is we all agree on using a standard and we follow that standard. And so it makes it basically makes it possible to import a .eln coming from anywhere, as long as you can find the root node, and then from there you look at the has part attribute of this root node, and then you process the dataset nodes that exist in the application. So yeah, I would say that that's the answer.
Great. So we often get questions from people about how to onboard and offboard users who are colleagues coming from different institutions. And I think one of the greatest features of the ELN file format is it allows you to export all of your entries from eLabFTW or a different ELN that's part of the ELN consortium. And then when you move to a different institution, you're able to import all of your entries, and to whatever degree the specifications are sort of observed by those different vendors, the entry will look the same as it did in your previous institution. So this is really amazing for just being able to collaborate and being able to take your information with you when you move labs or when you move research groups. So I would say that moving between different ELNs or moving between different instances of the same ELN is one of the main ways that people would use this file format. Can you think of any other instances where like a user would find that exporting their information or importing it in this file format would be especially advantageous.
For backup purpose also,
Yeah.
like it's easier to work with if in, I don't know, in 10 years you have to dig into it to look into it and the instance has been long gone. At least you have a way to programmatically look into the data because it will just be JSON file. And so also, even if you make one big .eln with many experiments, so in the example that you say where you export all your experiment and resources and everything, you will still end up with one metadata JSON file. So this is also super convenient. You can even just open it and do Control F and see the content directly by looking at some keywords.
So if you wanted to conduct an analysis, for example, you could write a script and use I guess you wouldn't have to use the API, but you could write a script to search a number of ELN files for custom fields, for example, that have a certain name and then collect all the information from them that way.
For instance, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's true that it's better if you have a running instance and then you would use the API for that. Yeah.
Okay, but it does seem like a very structured way to store your information so that if you need to find something easily, you can. Okay, great. Are there any questions from the group about the use of ELN files, keeping in mind that we will talk about the template sharing hub next? I realize that a lot of the participants here are also in the RDM club, so you probably know a lot about ELN files. So that's fair if you don't have a ton of questions, but I think that the ELN file format probably has a lot of uses that we haven't discovered yet. It's like a great sort of place to start in terms of building tools for interoperability. So I'm excited to see what we do next. All right, I see some questions. Nico, do you want to take these questions directly? Because they require copying and pasting.
Yes, so I'm looking at it, missing links to, yeah, so in fact, this is, you see, I put 4 days ago priority high tag on this issue because we realized that there are some bugs in the import export process. Sometimes the links are not good. There are some issues, and so we want to look into these issues as soon as possible, as soon as humanly possible, because we have many different things left and right. Especially, we have many security reports that we need to look at, and every day there is like 5 dependencies that have a vulnerability that is discovered in there, and that takes time out of us, out of developing stuff and fixing bugs. But fear not, we will fix these issues. I'm sure Mustafa is already starting to work into, starting to look into it. Ok, donc ça c'est bon. Et I don't know, Alexander, you just pasted a bit of JSON in there.
I think that was about the licensing question.
There, maybe I missed the question.
Maybe do you want to just let Alexander speak?
Yes, I can. You can also, Alex.
Yeah, hi. It's basically the Creative Commons by non-commercial mom. To my knowledge, like there's no possibility currently to modify this in the ELN export. Is this correct?
Yeah. I think it was probably a shortcut that I took when I created it. I said, okay, let's just pick one that is acceptable. But yeah, now we could look into selecting the license at the moment of export. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think like currently it's not a problem, but especially like for publications or like if people can use this for publications or archival purposes, it's confusing. Like if you select one license, but then like in the file format it has another license. That's basically the only. Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, I think this is a great moment to bring up any concerns or questions you have, like those ones from Alexander. Thank you. Because since we're hoping to make the template sharing website open and public by September, we want to really make sure that the ELN file format feels very trustworthy by then. And hopefully things will chill out a bit for us this summer and we'll be able to get more of these kinds of things done. So please bring your questions about that to us as soon as possible before we spend much time improving it. And if you don't have anything to say about it right now, that's okay. Feel free to send us an email at contact@deltablot.email. So any questions before we move on to the next topic? Okay, so if not, then I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, does that look okay? Seems kind of like it looks
It's
kind of weird.
super small.
It's super small. Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so for those of you who haven't taken a look yet at the template sharing website, the URL is eln.community. And the idea of this site is that this is just a starting place for making more space for sharing resources in general. So there might be additional pages on this site that have support for teaching, or maybe there'll even be sort of like a social element where different research data managers and other research professionals can have profiles where they make themselves available for skill sharing or whatever. We're really open to lots of possibilities in terms of the future of this website. But for now, the main function is to share templates. And this is because we had a number of different users mention to us that they were wishing that something like this existed or applying for funding to try to make a system like this. And so we started working on it with a freelancer that we had with us last year. And our new developer, Elsa, has joined on this project. And so it's been really great to see it evolve quite a bit over the last few months. There are a few little things that still need to get worked on, but I think that we're definitely at a point where it's the time for public testing. And then in September, we will delete all of the entries that are on there and we will open the site officially. And so people will be able to upload things and actually download them and use them in their work. And so we met a lot with the Research Data Manager Club over the last, I would say, 10 months or almost a year. To talk about this. And so I just want to really thank everyone in that group for all of their feedback. It was really, really helpful in terms of understanding what kind of features people would want a site like this to have. And so hopefully this looks pretty much like it's included all of the things. I think there's just a few things to get added, but we knew that people really wanted to have, for example, the number of downloads that the different templates had. They wanted it to be really easy to categorize, and people were also really interested in having the organization ROR, which I think is really great. One sort of cute feature I would like to add in the future is a map where you can click on the different institutions and see who has uploaded the greatest number of templates, because the goal is to just encourage people to use it as much as possible. We often have research data managers come to us, or new users of eLabFTW, who are just wondering, how do we get the users to use eLabFTW? How do we get them to use ELN at all? One of the big issues is that people seem to feel really intimidated by opening eLabFTW for the first time and feeling that there are no templates or no examples. And so even if you were to upload some really, really basic templates, that might help some colleagues at other institutions just get some ideas for how to get started. And then another thing that has become really evident in terms of its utility is the compliance documents that a lot of you have to deal with at your institutions, and also data management plans, like DMPs. We could have a lot of really sophisticated templates for those, and they could be shared here. So in the future, there might even be sort of official DMPs that go with certain kinds of research projects, and they could be hosted on this site. So we're really open to that. And we're also open to building out special templates that have specific like compliance functions, for example, and hosting them in a way that makes them very obvious and easy to find on this site. So it's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll just walk through the basic thing. So when you open the, there used to be a password, but there is no longer a password. So anyone can access this. And all of the information that's in here now is just for testing. So don't put anything that you're really attached to and that you somehow don't have a copy of on your own computer. And the main page is this browse page. So you see that we can see all the different templates that have been uploaded, and we can move through the different pages, so on. And we can just view the different entries like this. And one of the things that we've really tried to work on is the way that you can see the entry. And also we'll talk a little bit more about that. But it's way improved from the way it was before. So we can see most of what is inside the entry. We can see the custom fields and the steps and what files are attached and so on. We can see the organizations that it's associated with. And then also people are able to leave comments now about the different templates. And so if they're finding that something's missing or they have a question about it, there can be a conversation. So there's a bit of a social element to it that I really appreciate. So when you're looking at a template, it has the versioning, and there's a persistent identifier for each of these templates and each version, and that is just the URL at the top here. And so if I wanted to see an older version, I could go back, and then I could click the permalink, and that would be the URL that I needed. So I could open that in a different page if I wanted to. And so yeah, I think you just need to know how to look at the different versions. I love that it gives this message that lets me know that I'm looking at a historical version. And so you should be able to put these links in, potentially publications if you want to be able to really indicate what template you used for a certain experiment. This is a way to be able to give credit to the people who developed those templates, and to also just add increased sort of resolution on the information. I mean, many people have read studies where a procedure is described, and when we try to go to replicate that study, there's just some information missing. And I think that this could really help with that, just showing the actual template, the actual entry in the ELN that the person used to create the data set. So hoping that people are able to use the persistent identifier URLs as a way to really track what version of a specific template, and also assign authorship in that way. And then that encourages people to also share these too in the spirit of open science. So going back to the browse page, you can browse by category. There's a lot of different subcategories. And then you can search by name and also by organization. I can also just click on the organization here and it will filter that way. And then if I want to look at the organization page, it shows me how many templates have been uploaded by different institutions. I think it would be really fun to have some sort of competition where we try and encourage people to upload templates. We'd have to think about a good prize. So if people have an idea about a prize that they would like, we are really open to just encouraging use of this site. And then on the About page, you just get a little bit of information about what kind of license is being used, who is maintaining this. And like, I think I mentioned this before, but it's not just for users of eLabFTW. If you're using a different ELN that is part of the ELN consortium, then these templates can be useful to you as well. So maybe I'll just show what it looks like when you upload. So I just go over here to my profile. You log into this website using your ORCID ID. And when I go to my profile, I'm able to access the moderation queue, so you won't see this part, but I can see which entries I've uploaded and information about those and what their status is. And then I can also just go directly to upload an entry, and you just have to give some information about, I think it's a really good idea to have this description section here where people can be pretty free in terms of describing how this template was used. They can choose some categories, and then they can assign in ROR by searching for the different options. And then you have to check this box to submit to show that you agree to this particular license. So I think I've covered pretty much everything that I wanted to say. If you're just playing around with this website right now, you might notice that the search by category is working a little bit strangely right now. So we know, and we're going to fix that right away. Are there any questions about this right now? Or maybe what would be best is to go to Elsa, who's the developer who's working on this, and she can tell you what are the things that she's just done with the site, and also what her plans are for the future.
Thank you, Sydney. Hello, everyone. I'm Elsa, and I joined the DeltaBlock team a few months ago as a full-stack developer. And a few weeks ago, I took over the ELN community project. Since then, I've been working on a few improvements to make the website more useful and easier to use. So the first improvement is about description. I know that people from the RDM club wanted the option to add a description to a record, and now it's possible. Maybe you already noticed during Sydney's demo. Then I worked on the preview feature. So at this stage, the preview supports ELN file exported from eLab. So when a record is shared, people can now see a clearer and more readable preview of its content directly in ELN.community. So this feature can still be improved, especially for more complex records, but it already makes a shared record easier to explore and understand. And the last improvement is about notification. Your records and your comment are subject to moderation. So very soon, if your email address is public on your OrcID profile, you can receive an email when you record or your comment is approved or rejected. So that's a quick look at what I've been working so far, and I hope you will find this website useful. And feel free to reach out if you have any question or to open an issue on our GitHub if you encounter any problem. Thank you, and Sydney, you can continue.
Thanks so much, Elsa. Yeah, it's just been amazing to have you on this project. It's really starting to look like a sort of a tool that people will trust, because we know that it's a lot of work to make these templates and to share them, and we really want people to trust that this site is going to persist and then it's going to handle the data correctly. So really appreciate everyone's comments and really appreciate also your work. I see Benjamin is suggesting that the description section should be required. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And then another comment from Damien is that I'm glad that you're excited about it. Is there an API that we can call from the outside to facilitate third-party integration? That's an interesting question. Anyone know the answer? We don't have a script for that yet, but I think it's possible. Nico, do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I was waiting for Elsa to answer it. So of course, yeah, there will be a public API. Right now, it was not the priority because, as you can see, it's still we still need to fix some AI bugs and etc. But of course, there will be an API, and the final ID is that you could access the content from this website directly from eLab. So the idea is that, for instance, right now in eLab, when you list template, you list your template on your instance. Okay. Imagine that you have a little button to say, okay, show me also the templates from ELN community with this keyword or coming from this institution or with this tag, etc. So this is the final thing, is that users won't even need to know about ELN.community unless they want to add something in there, of course. But consumers of the templates would access them directly from the application. Also, regarding the OrcID, so you log in with the OrcID. Okay, so you need an OrcID. Most researchers, if not all, have an OrcID. So we thought it would be a nice fit. So it uses the OrcID API to authenticate your account. So all your data that you put in there will be necessarily linked with your OrcID profile. And regarding the notification by email, we decided that we didn't want to host passwords or to host emails. That's why there is only one authentication, which is an external authentication, is OrcID, and we don't even store any data. We don't have a users table. So we do not store your email. And in order for you to receive notification, you will necessarily need to have a public email associated with your OrcID. So that's how we do things right now. It might evolve, but we felt it was much simpler and much better to try and avoid storing information outside, of course, of the information that users want to share with the world.
Thanks, Nico. Yeah, really good point about the integration into eLabFTW. I think it will be amazing for users who are feeling overwhelmed by a blank slate ELN to be able to just click on a button and browse through the templates that are existing in this site. So really looking forward to that.
I believe even before that, we can also just add a link in the software, like, hey, looking for more templates, have a look at eln.community, and then it's just a link that opens in a new tab. I think it will be good.
Yeah, I think that would be amazing. I would love to see what kind of templates people make too, because you know, we are sort of distanced in a way from how people actually construct their templates. And I think knowing more about what kind of information people find useful will help us to format the templates in a different way, or the entries. We might be able to improve some of the options that people have for being able to structure things by seeing what people are actually doing. So I think that there's going to be a lot of really useful sharing happening. I just wanted to point out that here is the GitHub. There's a link directly from the About page in ELN community. And so you can just see what are the things that we're working on next, and people are free to be part of this discussion. And I also just wanted to point out, if it's not obvious to anyone, how you make an ELN file. So just from within eLabFTW, if I just go to an entry and I just go to export here, and then I export it as an ELN archive, that is the file that I would be uploading into the template sharing hub. So yeah, are there any questions? I know that a lot of the people here have been hearing about the template sharing hub for a long time. So thanks everyone for your guidance and for being so patient about it. The video of this recording or of this meeting is just going to be really useful for being able to give people an explanation of what the template hub is for. And yeah, I would say if you have any last requests about how this template sharing hub works, now is the time, because we're going to do a bunch of work on it, and then hopefully it will be able to operate properly. Benjamin was saying, do you think it will be necessary to add the eLabFTW version that was used to make the template in case something changes in the future? That's a good idea.
So when you make an ELN, there is this information in there already.
Excellent. Any other questions? If not, we can move on to general questions. I would love to know what people are going to be working on over the summer, which sort of open issues are blocking you from doing stuff that you want to do, and how's your time to sort of speak up. We're sort of deciding which priorities to focus on. We've had a lot of, in addition to all the security concerns related to all of the new AIs, recently, we've also had a lot of custom development requests, which is great, but we're also feeling that we might have to start limiting how many custom development requests we can take on at a time. So we might do that by season or something. Maybe we'll have a period where we accept them, and then we won't accept more for a certain time. We're just figuring that out, but now is a good time to get your concern on the top of our priorities for the summer.
Please don't say anything. We already have many things to do.
Yeah. As Alexander is pointing out, that we could have separation between the author and then the owner.
Yeah, we discussed that already. It's not evident, but eventually, yeah, it would make sense. Honestly, for me, the priorities will be. I mean, I don't know. There are many, but right now, this week, I can just speak maybe just for this week. Will be this ELN import-export, because it's true that we advertise it as a nice way to export all your data from one instance and to move it to another instance. And I'm not even talking about moving from one ELN to another, because that's yet another sac de problem. But from eLab to eLab, you should have 100% homology between the two datasets. And right now, there are some things that are missing. I think the compound, we did add the compounds, right, Mustafa, in the ELN?
I think yes, the compounds, but it was more the links that had a problem. But the compounds, I think it's already
okay. But the changelog is missing.
Yep, changelog.
Yeah, changelog, and there are other things. And there is also a problematic of trust that, for instance, if I export something as a .eln, no one is stopping me from opening the file, editing the content in there to make it appear as if I invented something great 10 years ago, and uploading it on eLab, and then you would be like, oh, look, this date is from 10 years ago, etc. So to do that, we are exploring the signature aspect, and again, it's yet another bunch of issues to consider, but having different levels of trust maybe when you import would lead to different outcome, meaning that if you import it with the highest level of trust, you take whatever is the content as gospel and you apply everything. Whereas if you cannot really trust it because it's coming from a student computer, you don't know where it's coming from, you would necessarily have some parameters that cannot be imported as is, so that, yeah, for instance, the creation date, it would make sense that if you don't trust it, it is the creation date of the moment it was imported. Whereas if it is trusted, then you would put the real creation date of the entry. So this is really an example of why the trust level of something that you import in a new system is important if you want to keep all the information, especially the immutable information that would then be different. So yeah, that's one of our goals.
Alexander had a comment about, is that not what timestamping
is?
Yeah.
Timestamping for sure will be the source of truth, but if you don't have timestamp, it's, so I'm not a jurist, but it's okay. I mean, it's all right to consider the server time as a legal proof. So, like people send emails and there are a lot of trials regarding emails and all of stuff. And no emails is timestamps, but they look at the date in the metadata of the email and the DKIM signature, and it works. And so this is this is kind of the same.
Cool. Any other questions or comments about ELN files or about anything else? And I would love to know what would be motivating for people as a prize for if we do a competition to see which institution can upload the largest number of templates.
Regarding the upcoming 5.6 release, so we are still adding stuff in there, and there will be a pretty sizable change in the user interface when listing entries. In fact, let me show you. I think it is better if I show you, because the community meeting is also a nice way to show you what we are working on directly live. So as you can see, the colors have changed, the feeling of the buttons have changed. This is also to increase the accessibility aspect of eLab. And so here we have infinite scroll. So you no longer have a pagination. You can scroll, which is problematic if you want to look at the footer, but otherwise it's pretty nifty. And you can also switch to this table here. So we used to have a table view. So this is not new. It's just that the table itself is completely different. So now you have columns that you can actually drag, that you can actually resize. You can also search for stuff directly in the column in there, or search with things here. And of course, you still have this option to look into extra field with a manufacturer. For instance, 1, 2, 3. You have this, or you can put a joker. And I saw that Mustafa opened the pull request, improving this interface, which is, let's be honest, ugly as fuck. But for the rest of the interface, we now have nice little buttons here to select some categories, for instance, which will also show up in there. And so you can change the different filters that you have here, and this works exactly the same in this view. But the table, of course, is interesting because if you want to change the ordering, or to look at some other columns that before we didn't really have the space to show, it's in there. And yeah, so basically, yeah, a lot of work has been done on this new interface, and the application also is more reactive because now we are using Svelte, and we will continue to use this library to make the feeling basically of the application faster and better. So it's part of the ongoing evolution of any code base that we use the newer technologies, and we introduce them little by little. And yeah, I think that's all I can show you for this new version. I will of course write a blog post detailing all the new features. There are many. Alors,
So in the chat, Hussein asked if resizing and changing the order of the columns gets reset. After we reset the page, we refresh the page. So I guess that's something we can maybe look at on how to save that in the user settings, maybe. So that if we define, for example, the ID column as first, it always stays there and pinned, maybe.
Yeah, so I think selecting columns have been something that was asked before. I would love if we could also have the extra fields as columns. Of course, with the upcoming change that we will make, where you can have multiple values for a single extra field, tabular representation of a multi-value value is complicated. I mean, maybe we implode it with comma or something like that, but let's see. But yeah, otherwise, the sizing and everything, maybe we can store in the local storage. So we just keep it client side, and let's see if there is some stuff we can do with that. Yeah, Shogo, I was really tired about this old table that was static and not great. So yeah, it's really nice to have been able to do that. And also, yeah, there is live search. So if you start searching for something, you directly see the results that arrive, and this is much better than before. Well, Florian is suggesting custom user views that you can share with others. Okay, let's take it little by little. Let's first look into custom view, then we can see about sharing. Key for extra fields for experience, you can users custom the order so that essentials one are on top. Yeah, you can move the custom fields around, huh? Yeah. You can just grab it and move it wherever you want it, and it will stay there.
How soon do you think we are to the next version? Or how close are we?
Actually, I could tag it today because it's good enough for consumption. And in fact, we internally use the nightly build in our system. But I would love to still see some more changes. So let's see by the end of the week, after we process the thousands of security issues that pop up. Let's see, maybe this week, at the end of the week, maybe this weekend, I can tag a release candidate or .0 version. Yeah, it's that close. Yeah.
Great. Okay, well, last call for questions or comments about any of the things discussed today. Thanks everyone for participating.
Also, maybe, Sine, we can mention the existence of the French community meeting.
Oh yeah, that's true. So we initiated a new community meeting that's specifically for people who speak French, people who are in regions that are French speaking. The first one was last week and it was very popular. So that's been really cool. And I don't know if I say this enough, but if people want help to start their own region specific or language specific community for discussing matters related to eLabFTW, please let us know. We can help you with that by helping to create mailing lists or hosting information about the next meeting or this kind of thing. And also we will have a list on our website soon about those kinds of meetings. So if you have one, like I know there are a few different ones in Germany, and you would like to just be on our website and have contact information for people who are interested to join, just let us know and we can do that. Question from Hussein.
How are plans about API v3? So I suggested something on the tracker. I believe it's a good idea. The first step would be to have just the specification. So we specify it in the OpenAPI specification like we do for V2, but this would then allow everyone to give input, and we already have good input from the community about the things that would need to be changed. But what can be nice with this approach is that we can really take the time to design something that will be extendable, that will be stable, that will be nicely thought, because of course at the beginning everything is super nice and proper, and of course after you add things and then you change the name of something like items before becomes resource, but the API is still items. So this kind of discrepancy, we will remove it in V3. But the step to go from the specification is all right, let's go with it, let's implement it and actually implement it, will probably take some time. And also we will need to keep V2 working. We won't go from V2 to V3 overnight. And so for that, we will have to think about a nice way to abstract the syntax from the different API version so that the same code can run behind it. And we want to do that without imposing too much maintenance work or an explosion of lines of code because we need to have V2 and V3. So let's hope we can find a way to do it elegantly. But eventually, of course, we will deprecate V2 and only keep V3 or maybe V4, V3, V4, I don't know. But yeah, because we don't want to have to keep to maintain for too long an API that would be deprecated.
Good question. Okay, final chance for questions or comments. I think we are good. So thanks, Nico and Elsa and everyone who commented and asked questions. Thanks for joining us all. We will schedule the next community meeting soon. I think it'll be end of September. Definitely keep in touch with us throughout the summer on Gitter and GitHub and all of our social media platforms. And if you, I should just find the links to share. Yeah, I think most of you have the links, but if you need anything from us, our general email is contact@deltablog.email. And I hope everyone has a really good summer.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.